Okay, let's start and review our homework from yesterday. You had 7 problems to do, numbers 3 through 9 on the worksheet I posted on Google Classroom. So let's go ahead and start. In number 3, you were taking a monomial times a binomial. So you're basically distributing 2z squared to 2z and to this negative 3. You should end up with 4z to the third minus 6z squared. Number 4, you should end up with negative 12a squared minus 18a. Number 5, 18b to the third plus 12b squared minus 24b. Number 6, you're distributing this 3c squared to every term here. You should end up with 6c to the fourth minus 12c to the third plus 9c squared. Number 7, negative 8d to the third minus 6d squared plus 4d. Number 8, negative 15e to the fourth minus 10e cubed minus 15e squared. And the last one, number 9, is negative 12f to the fourth plus 8f cubed plus 24f. If you have any questions, you can email me either directly or through Google Classroom, and I'll get back to you. So let's go on then with our lesson for today. We're still in 8-2, but we're going to work on the factoring part now. So basically, when you're factoring polynomials, you're going to find and factor out the greatest common factor. It's sort of doing distributive property in reverse order. So we're going to start off with this example. This is a trinomial, and we are going to take each term and factor it. Each of these is considered a term because they have operation signs in between them. So that's going to be our number 1 step here. We're going to take each of those terms, list them down here, and factor them. So when I factor 8x to the fourth, 8 can factor into 2 times 2 times 2. Those are all prime numbers. And x to the fourth would just be 4 x's, just like that. Let's do the same thing with 12. We can factor that into 2 times 2, which is 4, times 3. Those are all prime numbers that multiply and equal 12, times x times x. Last, we'll do 16x, and that's just 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 1x. Now that we've factored all 3 terms, we can take and do the second step, which is just to identify all of the common factors. When we identify the common factors, it means that it has to be common between the 3 terms. So we really need to just look at this first term. If each of them have a 2, then we can circle it. You can see each of them have 1, 2, so they're common to all 3 terms. So I'm going to circle it. As a matter of fact, they all each have another 2, so let's circle that. But when I get to the third 2, this 12x squared has only a 3. The 16x does have a 2, but remember, in order to circle it, it has to be common on all 3 of them. So we can't circle any more numbers here. Let's go to the variables. It looks like they each have at least 1 x, so I'm going to circle that. However, that's the only variable I can actually circle. They each only have 1 x. So now that I found all the common factors, I really only need to look at this one, and I'm going to copy down what I've actually circled only within here because each of these also has the same thing. So we're going to multiply those common factors. I guess I could put up here that we identified the common factors. So now I'm going to take that 2, I'm going to list it. I'm also going to take the other 2 and 1x. When I multiply them all together, I get 4x. That is my greatest common factor. So now that I have the greatest common factor, I'm actually going to go back to the problem. 8x to the fourth plus 12x squared minus 16x. And now I'm going to factor out 4x. So here's where the opposite of distributive property takes place. We're going to take that greatest common factor. It remains on the outside of our parentheses. Then I'm going to take and determine what I need to multiply that 4x by to get 8x to the 4th power. That's why it's the opposite of it. 4 times 2 is 8, and then I need x to the 3rd. So if I multiply these two, I come right back to 8x to the 4th. I'm going to keep that addition sign, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. 4x times 3x will give me 12x squared. And then the last one, I need a negative sign there. 4 times 4, 4x times 4 will give me that 16x. And I'm done. I just factored this trinomial. This would be my final answer. So let's try one from the problems that I'm going to leave for you to do for tomorrow. And that would be number 10, says find the greatest common factor of the terms of each polynomial. So for number 10, we have 12x squared minus 6x. Now for these directions, they just want to know what the greatest common factor is. So if I take a look at the coefficients, 12 and 6, their greatest common factor would be a 6. If I take a look at their variables, they each have one x, so the greatest common factor is 6x. Now it didn't ask me to actually factor it out here. They don't actually have me do that until I get to number 13. So I'm going to skip a couple and do a sample problem from 13. They have 8a as an apple plus 10, and they want me to factor the polynomial. So I've got to first find the GCF of 8 and 10. That would be 2. 2 times 5 is 10, and 2 times 4 is 8. So the greatest common factor would just be a 2. Now since I'm supposed to factor the polynomial, I'm going to factor out the 2 and leave behind what is left, which would be 4a plus 5. Again, I can check that pretty quickly. That's 8a. 2 times 5 is 10. I know I've completely factored it when what's left in parentheses has no common factors. So I know I've completely factored it. Okay, your homework then for tomorrow will be to finish off the rest of the problems. So I will post this sheet along with this video, and you're going to see at the bottom problems 10 through 18, but we did 10 and 13, so you just have to do all the ones that we haven't done. And we'll check in again tomorrow. Have a good night.